7 goals before we've gotten 5 minutes through this game. North Carolina opened the scoring with Chris Gray. The Tar Heels have the #1 scoring offense in the country. 3 straight just now by Virginia. A couple by Cormier, Connor, and Garneau, the other 2 goals for UVA, and it's 4-3 Virginia. Second meeting of the season between these two. The Tar Heels won the first one 16-13 in Charlottesville. A couple of top 10 teams in the ACC. They've all been top 10 teams all season. We saw Notre Dame beat Duke earlier as Connor Schellenberger, the redshirt freshman, misses high, and we have not really had a chance to catch our breath this afternoon.
Virginia really utilizing a lot of on-ball picks to create separation, but somebody to keep an eye on. There's a lot of slipping down on this side of the field. Virginia having a tough time keeping their feet.
Matt Moore curls inside. Krieg the save. Matt Colin Krieg, true freshman goalie. He's been so impressive in North Carolina's biggest games. 59% against Duke, Denver, and Virginia.
In the last matchup against Virginia, he was otherworldly. 16 saves, some the dramatic. And right there, that's a big stop. Virginia's got the momentum. They're pushing the tempo, and Krieg answers Matt Moore on the doorstep, which doesn't happen often when you're covered by Will Bowen from North Carolina, number 24.
A rare moment of repose amongst the Fury to start this game.
Yeah, what is this? Don't slow it down. Keep it going. This has been a ton of fun so far.
Here comes Will Perry, one of 3 fifth-year seniors on that first midfield for UNC. He's got the short stick matchup on Soliday. 32's been picked on a lot this season. Now Jacob Kelly sneaks in. Alex Rode, former MOP of Virginia's championship run 2 years ago, with the save.
And this is a portion of the game that you really need to keep an eye on. Virginia has struggled thus far this season, particularly against ACC opponents, in clearing the ball. Only at 81% on the season. That number needs to be north of 90.
Both of these teams ride, and if you're new to lacrosse, think of the full court press in basketball. Xander Dixon cradles for Virginia. 3 unanswered by UVA after UNC jumped out to a 3-1 lead. Anish Shroff, Matt Ward with you on this Saturday afternoon, and the takeaway, Matt Wright.
A nice job by Wright, but again, Xander Dixon for Virginia losing his footing. Virginia seems to be more impacted by that thus far in the game. You're seeing it happen on the defensive and offensive end. Haven't really seen a North Carolina player slip. Different fields have different conditions and different hardness and firmness. And from my playing days, I remember this field being particularly hard and a little bit more slippery than some of the other fields in the ACC.
McCarthy now working against the Virginia defense. Chris Merle, now Schertzinger, he's got a goal. Loses Soliday. Flips it back behind the cage, shot in front, and a goal. Track meet, and as advertised right from the get-go, 15 shots already. Both teams have scored 4 goals. The goalies have been under siege in the early going, and I don't think we expect any team to let up off the gas anytime soon.
It's going to be a lot of the same, but you talk about the goalies. This is going to be a game where maybe, and I bet your save percentage won't be above 50%, but it's going to be which one, Krieg or Rode, that can steal 1 or 2 that will make the difference.
Face-off won by North Carolina. Tucci fires. Chris Gray, the backup. Foreign White, he's Carolina's best player, leading the ACC in goals and points per game. He's had 7 or more points in a game 6 times and had 4 goals in the first meeting against Virginia.
He's not the most physically imposing offensive player, but just lets the game come to him. He's incredibly skilled, good shooter, good feeder, athletic enough, creative, out of this world, fun to watch, and to see the impact that he's had for this. The impact that he's had for Carolina on the offensive end. They had a lot of talent, a lot of youth, but when he came to Chapel Hill, it just transformed the offense, because they haven't had a player like this in some time.
Carolina 15-1 since Gray joined the program. Only loss came last time out against Duke. Here's Gray, looking for an angle, it wasn't there. Cook will retrieve, that is a shot. And on a shot, possession awarded to the team closest to the ball where it goes out of bounds. Jacob Kelly's got 13 goals. He's got the matchup. Kelly denied at the cage. Road closed the drawbridge. Sawstead lost it, and the Texas native able to recover. And North Carolina had it back. It's jarred loose. Matt Moore picks it up. Both of these teams thrive off of chaos. Laviano fires and scores! Hello!
So this is a game in the middle of the field. It's going to create a lot of transition, a lot of offense. Moore picks it up at the midfield line, and he is not bashful to feed the crease. And Laviano, with the perfectly timed cut, in and out of his stick, low to high. That the slow-mo there doesn't do that justice, because I didn't even know it was in his stick. It was in the back of the goal within a second after it left Moore's stick on the pass. 5-4 Virginia.
A nifty feed and an even better finish by Laviano. That's a SportsCenter top 10 nominee. Jeff Connor, 4 in blue, has given Virginia another weapon in that offensive midfield, and it's allowed Lars Tiffany to use his depth a little bit. You can play a Peter Garneau or a Charlie Bertrand now on your second midfield, and those guys start for most of the teams in America. Here comes Connor.
And that's a good opportunity for Connor. Again, has elevated into the starting lineup the last few games because of his ability to dodge, but he's also a good feeder.
Matt Moore, 2 assists today, 94 for his career. Here comes Connor against Connor Marr, one of the best short stick D-middies in the country, 31 in white. And here's the matchup we highlighted off the top. Moore against Bowen. Moore. Look at the physicality. That's a bounce shot, and Krieg steals it.
What an individual effort there by Marr. Great one-on-one defense with a short stick. A forced shot from Moore. You know, if you have one critique of his game is he gets a little impatient in his dodging. It's what makes him a great player, because he's continually putting pressure on you. But at certain times, the ball dies in his stick. And he creates a lot of transition the other direction by taking inopportune shots as North Carolina.
Alex Trippy ties the game at 5. It's been an offensive explosion here in the first quarter.
Trippy, the natural lefty against Connor, drives down the left to the far post, rings it off the post. Perfect location. Coach Bresci said he needed production from the second midfield line. He's getting it thus far for North Carolina, as Alex Trippy gets his 8th of the season.
5 goals for North Carolina, 5 different goal scorers. And one thing we've seen early, Matt, is North Carolina not having a ton of trouble with this Virginia ride. The Virginia ride, their press, one of their best weapons, but in ACC games so far, teams have managed that Virginia ride pretty good.
There's just so many athletes in the ACC this year, right? Like in the middle of the field, having someone who can take it from one end to the other is so important, and every team has 2 or 3 of those guys because they've stayed on campus, they've got transfers. So it's a hard year to put that pressure on the ride. Virginia's not going to change, but it may not have the success that it did in the year 2019 when they won the national championship.
Charlie Bertrand flips it back. Good look here from the wing, a shot and a score. Matt Moore, 3 points in this first quarter. You said round 1 went to Will Bowen. Matt Moore is winning round 2.
Yeah, he has been just phenomenal. Right there, the low-to-low shot, far post. But to me, the beauty in that is that's a rarity for Virginia. They don't get a ton of hockey assists. They don't throw the ball through X too often. And right there, they drew the slide, they banged it through X, and then the quick pass to Moore in a perfect location from a shooting perspective. To me, Virginia's best team goal of the game.
Moore closing in on becoming just the 5th Cavalier with 100 career goals and 100 career assists. And Matt, you played at Virginia. That's a pretty good list. Pelkey, Gladding, Stanwyck, and Krause.
I mean, what he did a couple years ago, 40 goals and more than 40 assists, was, again, unique. One of the all-time best seasons of Virginia history, as Aiken gets a good quality shot, but Krieg, the freshman goaltender's up to the task.
North Carolina able to handle the ride again. They've got a chance. They go early. It hits the side of the net. It'll reset the shot clock. Virginia ball, Carolina in the crease. On a change of possession, there's an 80-second shot clock. You have 20 seconds to get it across the midfield line, so Virginia's got to get it across before that clock hits 60, and they just do. They'll play it back to Schellenberger, the redshirt freshman, who leads the team in assists and points. #1 recruit coming out of high school last year. Got a pretty good looking list of freshmen in the ACC. Schellenberger, Brennan O'Neill at Duke, Owen Hiltz at Syracuse, Eric Dobson at Notre Dame, and the Carolina goalie Colin Krieg.
I can't believe Dobson from Notre Dame's a freshman. I mean, he is, that is a physically impressive athlete. And I mean, he's probably one of the best athletes, if not the best athletes in the ACC at this point as a freshman.
He's a left-handed Perkovic. Schellenberger over to Moore, and it just skips wide. Regan Quinn has the backup. 6-5 Virginia in an electric first quarter. Moore drew the slide over to Schellenberger. Feeding inside to Connor. What a pass by Connor Schellenberger to Jeff Connor, and it's 7-5.
You talked early in the broadcast, Virginia playing less hero ball since this first UNC game. Right there, Moore draws the double team, gets to Schellenberger up top, who does the no-look pass to Connor on the crease. That is pretty offense. Again, back-to-back goals for Virginia that were created with a dodge, but it wasn't the dodger who made the assist. It was the second pass that led to the offense.
A 12-goal opening quarter, face-off violation against UNC, so each team with one, and Virginia with a chance to tack on. Final 30 seconds, shot clock irrelevant.
This is as clean a quarter for the Cavaliers in terms of turnovers. I mean, they have been very sharp.
Matt Moore from outside and is saved by Krieg. Final seconds. Carolina had a chance. Yeah, it's been that kind of game.
I mean, that pass was, I don't know if that was who he was throwing it to, but it hit Gray right on the stick, cutting up the field.
In the words of Lieutenant Colonel Frank Slade, we're just getting warm. Last time these two played, yeah, the game did slow down later, but it was a track meet as well, Matt.
Yeah, and it was an interesting game because you look at this stat sheet. 90% of the time you would think Virginia wins that game. But if you actually watched it live, North Carolina controlled it. You know, Krieg was great in the cage, 62 shots. I bet you if you talk to Coach Tiffany, he would say, I would rather have been 48. You know, there were some bad shots in there. But it was a fun matchup. Virginia ended up making it close at the end of the game. But the big difference was Krieg in the cage for Carolina. And the stat that's not up there is Virginia was 1 of 8 on their own man up. North Carolina was effectively 3 for 8 against UVA's man up. So when you score more goals on the man down in a game where a team has 8 man ups, you're going to like your chances to come away with the W.
It's been a strange statistic for North Carolina. 5 man down goals this season. So man advantage for the other team is not necessarily an advantage against UNC. LaSala and Atucci at the faceoff X.
And talking about that first quarter, right? So 30 shots, like that's just outrageous. But only 4 turnovers. Like the quality of that lacrosse was so good. Both teams are clicking on all cylinders.
You think about Virginia's season arc. They had that loss to UNC, did not look great the next time out in a win against Robert Morris. But that Notre Dame game, Lars Tiffany told me, it really tested his team's patience offensively. And they had to play team lacrosse. And the light switch went on after that. Dominated Richmond and a strong first quarter against UNC. Here come the heels, though. A chance to go unsettled. Solomon, saved by Rode. He gets rid of it quickly. The Cavaliers the other way. 28 in blue, Jared Connors, a long stick D-Mitty. A first-team All-American 2 years ago, a first-team mid-season All-American from our friends at Inside Lacrosse.
I'll have to say, Laviano may have, on the hidden ball trick, the worst fake cradle that you see in the game of lacrosse. No question who had the ball there.
Charlie Bertrand now, 2-time Division II Player of the Year at Merrimack. He's seen his playing time come down of late. Got off to a great start, just 1 goal in his last 3 games. Another save made, and it's Connor Marr off the deflection.
But Connor for Virginia, he's making things happen. He's got a couple goals, but he's also had a number of pinpoint passes to cutting UVA attackmen, like that Laviano play right there. That's a matchup we're going to see, here for the remaining 3 quarters.
Matt, so far this first midfield for UNC has been quiet.
It probably won't stay that way. There's just too much talent. They're too big. They're too skilled. But Coach Bresci, he wants to get that second midfield involved. They've probably been on the field maybe a little bit more than they have been in prior games. And he said, we don't want them to be, on the field to kill time. We want them to put pressure on the other team's defense so they can make the life for the first midfield a little bit easier as the game wears on.
A refrain in the ACC, every team's got 2 solid midfields. Cameron misses wide.
They're all first teams. They were at some point, because there's just so much depth, whether they were playing first midfield, a year previous, and there was a couple transfers that bumped in the second midfield. I mean, all these teams are so talented.
There's Chris Gray working against Cade Sawstead, one of the heroes of that 2019 championship game. Now William Perry against Soliday, and Perry! The 5th-year senior captain makes it 7-6.
Perry from Connecticut, just driving down the right wing, 3-quarter shot. Rode drops his body but doesn't get his stick down in time. The 5th-year senior Perry, who made his mark the previous matchup, 2 goals, 2 assists, gets his first of this matchup.
Well, there's that first midfield for UNC. Nice rake by Tyre. And Parker Alexander, 23 in white's going to be important today. Part of that short stick defensive midfield. In that first meeting, North Carolina ran Connor Mara, and he was out of gas by the end of the game. Alexander was not at 100%. He had just come out of COVID protocol. He's got fresher legs today, and they'll need him. McCarthy against Merle. Schertzinger back to McCarthy. McCarthy feeding inside, ball's on the turf. Gray recovers. Sawstead missed on the trail check, looking for the cutter. It's tipped, it'll stay with UNC. Virginia touched it. Alex Trippy's got a goal today. 6 different goal scorers for North Carolina. Shot clock down to 5. Rolled into the corner. And it'll be Virginia ball. Shot clock violation. It's become a half-court game now.
And Xander Dixon, number 10 for Virginia, converted attackman. They invert him behind the cage, matched up against a short stick. North Carolina's got to keep their eyes on a swivel and be quick to slide.
No flag there. Dixon working against Marr. Over to Matt Moore. Shaded by Bowen. Moore's got a goal and 2 assists. Trying to get top side. Too far out. Plays it back behind the cage. Shot clock at 15. Here's Bertrand. Spins inside. Dixon puts it back in, but they're going to wave it off. He was in the crease.
I'd like to take a look at that on a replay. Not sure I saw Xander Dixon in the crease, but a good break for North Carolina.
Not one call against Carolina. What's the matter with you?
Here comes Tanner Cook. Loses his man. Bouncer wide. So crafty with his stick, the senior from the Hill Academy in Canada, where he played for the great Brody Merrill. Sawstead all over Gray. He's done a nice job on 4 today.
We talked about Bowen and Moore in the open. Sawstead for Virginia, to me, is maybe one of the most underrated players in the country. I mean, his freshman year, he was the #1 D-man for Virginia, and then he got hurt, and he didn't play for a year, and it took him a little while to get back into it. But on the ball, there's not many better. He's so long and rangy. That's not a matchup that if you're Virginia, you think Gray's going to win. Even though Gray's one of the best players, you are slow to go in that scenario.
Shot clock winding down. Cameron against Fox. Tough angle shot saved by Rode. And Matt, to your point on Sawstead, I thought in the Notre Dame game, he really did a great job on Pat Cavanaugh, and that's when he looked like the Sawstead from 2019, really for the first time since that championship game.
He's getting better every game, and you watch him. He's a big physical. I mean, he's tall, but he's physical. I mean, he will lay the lumber on you, and he'll body check as much as anybody else. So he is key to Virginia because now you can move Kaloji, right, who's more of like a number 2 and more of like your defensive captain, onto a matchup that has less pressure. And so he can control the defensive slide and the tempo in a more efficient way.
Doc Sakin working on Matt Wright. Aiken now has the short stick, Alexander. Aiken spent the fall with Villanova, the football team. Came back to Virginia for a 5th year in the spring. Took him a little while to get back into lacrosse shape.
And that play there,
3 goals against Robert Morris and then the game winner against Notre Dame.
He's getting better each week, just like Sawstead has for Virginia. But in that specific example, he held on to the ball too long. He got a matchup that he wanted. He would have been better off making a pass, spinning the ball around the exterior of the offense, and re-engaging at that point. When you hold on to the ball in lacrosse, just good things don't happen. You draw the double, move it. And that was an example of North Carolina taking advantage of that.
McCarthy down the alley, splits a double. McCarthy! What an individual effort by the Princeton transfer.
McCarthy, whoop, to the end in the middle of the field. Oh, I'm just going to put it off the post as well. Gets his 2nd of the game, tie ball game.
All tied up at 7, 6:26 to go in the first half. When we talked to Joe Bresci earlier this week, he had a message for UNC coming off its first loss against Duke last Thursday. He said, listen, if that's the #1 team, look how close you are. You lost in overtime. And Matt, he really leaned on his veterans to see the big picture. Hey, all is not lost. And given the ACC gauntlet in 2021, you don't want to let one game beat you twice.
Absolutely, and he took it as a learning experience. You know, I asked him the question. I said, how did your team respond? Because I remember when I was a young player, we lost to Maryland and we lost to Hopkins back-to-back. I thought the season was over. You know, like emotionally, I was like, whoa, what's going on? I wasn't used to losing. And you talk to some of the seniors, like, we're fine. You know, we'll get better from this. And North Carolina seems to have taken that task as well.
Tyre the Fogo, shouldn't say Fogo, he doesn't get off. Took the shot on goal. We get a loose ball push on UNC. Now the ACC has been unpredictable. If you ask, hey, who's going to win a game between any 2 ACC teams, good luck. Duke beats Carolina and then Notre Dame beats Duke. Virginia gets smoked by Syracuse and then Notre Dame smokes Syracuse. Matsui's pass dropped by Laviano. A turnover.
North Carolina doing a nice job dropping to the midfield in their ride, making Virginia come to them. And you have to get it over the midfield in 20 seconds. And so Virginia was up against that time crunch, and Matsui rushed the pass and just misfired to Laviano.
There's Justin Anderson. Now William Perry, who's got a goal today. So does Tanner Cook. Cook over to Perry. He's got a cannon from long range. That'll reset the shot clock. The shot clock resets if the ball hits the pipe, the goalie, or if it goes in. We get a timeout, 4:56 to go. Lars Tiffany, Virginia's head coach, calling the timeout. Lars, one of those guys, Matt, that always sees the journey. And I think we've learned that if Virginia has some hiccups early, that is not necessarily an indictment on the season. In that 2019 championship season, even at this point, mid-April, they didn't look like they would be the last team standing. It really wasn't until the ACC tournament. You and I had them in that championship game against Notre Dame in the ACC tournament when that was probably the first time you said, whoa, if they play like this, it could be a special finish.
I think he's taken a page out of Coach Danowski from Duke's book. You know, Duke is a team that, beginning of the year, you look at the roster, wow, this team is loaded everywhere, and then they'll lose a game early on or not play their best lacrosse, and you're like, oh, maybe Duke's not that good, and then it's just part of the ride. It's part of the process, and you've seen that from Virginia as well. I mean, to your point, I think Ryan Conrad getting healthy for Virginia in 2019 was a huge development for them, but it was mostly the coaching and the strategy and figuring out, who to get on the field, what type of offense are we going to run, making the adjustments that led to that incredible finish. And Virginia, since that Notre Dame game, the UNC game, is playing much more team lacrosse and making the extra pass versus dodge to score for yourself or dodge to jam it to the crease. And when you have the talent and the depth that they do, it's going to be hard to stop. North Carolina, to me, plays that lacrosse, right? North Carolina's been doing that all year. They're not a dodge to the goal, individual effort type of team. They are, hey, you're going to slide or you're going to pretend slide to us, we're going to make you pay for it. And that's the brand of lacrosse that ultimately carries the torch to a national championship.
It makes for a fun watch, too, and this one has been that. The first quarter alone gave us 12 goals and 30 shots. We've slowed down a bit here in the second quarter. Tied at 7, Carolina looking to retake the lead. They last led at 3-1. Perry will invert. He's got the shorty Merle. Anderson back to Perry. He's a threat from out there. On one bounce to Justin Anderson. He goes down. The ball is out. Scooped up by UNC. Perry cranks. We'll flip it back. The shot clock did not reset. And Chris Gray offline. Gray's been quiet today.
And he's just never going to press. He more than any other player in the country, I feel, lets the game come to him. That is when he's at his best. And you look at the score sheet, typically at the end of the game, you go, he had 8 points. So we're going to hear from him. I think he's still just kind of evaluating what type of impact does he want to have. How can he best help North Carolina play good offense?
Brian Cameron, it's not there. We get a whistle. It goes against UNC, so Virginia will have it. Loose ball hold. Only 3 shots in this second quarter for Virginia.
Usually
6 in blue. Doc Sakin.
And just talking usually when you have high-paced games, 7-7, lots of goals, it's usually sloppy. This game has not been that. There's been maybe a couple turnovers here that weren't great, but it's been sharp. And even there, Doc Sakin, a nice dodge to the middle of the field. Krieg, the goalie, makes a big save. Goalies are playing well. Face-off men are being effective. It's been great. This has been a lot of fun to watch here in the first half.
Carolina breaks the press. Right shot turned away by Rode. UNC perfect in the clearing game. And a timeout by Joe Bresci with 2:56 to go in this first half. (2016) UNC unseeded in the NCAA tournament, barely got in, survived Marquette in the first round, knocked off Notre Dame in the quarters, Loyola in the semis, and then won a thriller against Maryland in the final. Since then, they have not won a tournament game, but Chris Gray arrived from Boston University in 2020, 15-1 with Gray, and I think we'd all be surprised if UNC does not make a deep run this May.
Yeah, I mean, the program, it's funny. You look at the national championship, right? That's the culmination. That's everything you want. When you lose a lot of senior leaders who make big plays, it's tough. So that next year, to not have the success, it's to be expected. And then Coach Bresci brings in these young, talented players, right? The freshman and sophomore classes from 18 and 19 are elite, but it's great. It's having that one player that's just a step above that can make everyone else better. You can lead the younger players so they learn to be patient but be impactful at the right moments. And credit him on an amazing career to date. Again, he is just he's a quiet superstar, and he's fun to watch, and North Carolina is beyond lucky to have him in the program, and his teammates are lucky to have him leading the way.
Matt, go back to your career. You guys win the championship in 2003. You're a freshman, and if I remember correctly, 2004 was a disaster, right?
That's an understatement, right? And it's It's funny. I remember my sophomore year. I think we got rated preseason number 2, and we're like, "How are we not number 1? We're defending national champions." It's, well, you lost Chris Rotelli, AJ Shannon. You lost Billy Gladding. You lost your best players and your best leaders. Well, I think they were probably right. We ended up 5-8, and each game got worse. And so it happens. But it ultimately led to us being 17-0 my senior year, and the lessons learned during the unexpected times, the non-good times, are what leads to greatness.
Yeah. Another save by Rode on the shot by McCarthy. Interference. Virginia ball. 9 saves for Alex Rode. Now these goalies have been under fire. They've done pretty well in this first half. And that's been a problem for Virginia, the clearing game. As good as they are on the ride, and we told you the ride hasn't been as effective against other ACC teams. Virginia's been sloppy at times clearing the ball.
And we were talking prior to the game. My take was that the plus-minus on the ride versus clear is gonna be in North Carolina's favor. They ride really well. They ride as well as Virginia does. They're just a little sharper in the middle of the field clearing, right? That's Jeff Connor, number 4 for Virginia. A midi in the middle of the field, a good athlete, run it out. Get it to the other side of the field. You don't need to make that extra pass and make your life more challenging.
Takeaway, Jared Connors. That's what a first-team All-American looks like. Dox Aiken, the highest scoring midfielder in the history of this proud program. Sean Morris against Moore. Moore using the contact, another save. That's Krieg. He's got 8 saves.
Everyone on the field playing at a high level. You don't see that often. It's usually, hey, the offense playing well and the defense is playing poorly. I mean, you're getting quality play at every position. And this is a matchup that's
35 seconds.
And this is a matchup that's been favorable for Virginia early here in this game. Connors, number 4, has a couple goals, but he's also been able to kind of get to that goal line extended place with a lot of success, and good things happen when you can do that as an offense.
Connor with 12 seconds. Back to Schellenberger. Matt Moore, his shot deflected. It'll stay with Virginia. 7.2 seconds to go. What do you do here, Matt?
You're going to give it to Moore. You're probably best one-on-one dodger, and he's either going to get a shot on cage or he's going to force the crease. There's just not enough time to make those extra passes.
There's Schellenberger, 4 seconds. Over to Moore, errant pass. And we are tied at 7 after 30 minutes. We got to catch our breath a little bit in that second quarter after a 12-goal first quarter.
Anytime there's 8 shots and a half, that's a lot. But look, it slowed down. I mean, we had 30 in the first quarter, so the pace of play particularly slowed down a little bit. For UNC, I'm looking here, and you're looking at face-offs. Kind of a bit of the same, 10-6. North UVA won that first matchup fairly easily. UNC's wings have played pretty well, so they're going to need more of that because I think LaSalle has the advantage at the clamp. It's going to be, can their athletes on the wings outperform Virginia's?
Chris Gray, the leading scorer in the ACC, just 1 goal. He scored the first goal of the game. He's been quiet since then. And Carolina wins the opening face-off of the third quarter. Virginia's ride has been such a weapon. Opponents clearing at under 74%, but Carolina a perfect 10 for 10 in the first half. They've been undeterred.
And it has to be, nice for them because their offense and their attack rides very similar to that of Virginia. They implement a lot of the 10-men ride, kind of that full court press, so they see it more frequently, I say, than most teams do, right? Richmond probably doesn't see that quite as much. And UNC has the athletes. They see it every day in practice. So I'm not overly surprised that they're handling it as well as they are. But again, when you play Virginia, you have to do that because you give them extra possessions. They're too talented on the offensive end.
Tanner Cook over to Chris Gray. His shot is blocked off the ground. Jared Connors, a human Roomba. And Connors a threat with the long stick in transition. He cranks, fires, save, Krieg. 18 career goals by Jared Connors.
And you can look at that there. 7 goals and 15 shots. Krieg really stepped up there in the second quarter.
Krieg saved 4 of those 6. He had a career-high 20 saves when these two met last month. He was the difference. Here comes Peyton Cormier, the Oakville Ox. And 10 saves now for Krieg, who's played well in all the ACC games and the early season win against Denver. True freshman goalie, 3 more years of this at least.
Coach Bresci said it's, we asked him what differentiates him. Like, North Carolina's had a lot of good goalies, but like he just seems at another level, and it's like, look, he takes extra shots every day. He has 20 saves, and he's upset about the one he missed. And he goes out there and he's getting peppered by your number 1 attackman and middies, 40-plus, 50-plus shots after practice. It's that dedication that he shows that Coach Bresci says he hasn't seen in the past from some of his goalies.
Here comes McCarthy looking for the hat trick, and he gives UNC the lead. Connor McCarthy has doubled his season goal total in an afternoon.
He came to play today. The right-handed shot. Now look, you're going to see him kind of bring his stick across his face. We'll call it a twister. It's kind of the name that the lacrosse community has given him. And when he moves it over that way, he gives himself more angle to push the ball towards the far cage. 3 goals, his first hat trick of the season. McCarthy is a transfer, someone they had big expectations for, and today he's proven them right.
He's battled injuries in his career, played with Michael Sowers, now of Duke, at Princeton. And Quinton Matsui, sophomore from Minnesota, picks it up. Kyle Kaloji, 16 in blue. Mid-season All-America honors for him. He began his career as a walk-on when he told Lars Tiffany he wanted to play at Virginia instead of club lacrosse at Cal. Lars Tiffany's reaction was, yeah, sure, okay, let's see if you can make the team. And he's turned into a staple of this defense and really a leader on that back line. Peter Garneau's got a quick first step. Xander Dixon, there's that invert game. Cormier whips it wide.
And Virginia's doing a nice job in this game on the offensive end, getting the ball through X. I was talking to Tucker Radeball, a former Virginia great, and he's like, X is where the magic happens in the game of lacrosse, and you can see the field in so many more angles. In Virginia today, when they get it through X, when they dodge, draw a slide, and move it through X, they are getting good opportunities.
X going to give it to you, as we remember the late, great DMX. Xander Dixon, the bouncer. Little change up off the turf, and we're tied again at 8.
Right here, Bertrand finds a cutting Dixon. That shot right here, you can see the most important piece is he bounces the ball far enough out where it can get the elevation change to get to the open portion of the net, because Krieg read it. Krieg brought his body down but it was Xander Dixon bouncing the ball a couple feet outside of the crease that allowed for it to get to the top level to tie this game at 10.
Here comes Tyre.
All three faceoffs here to start the second half coming up for the Tar Heels. Pete Ulasala, Virginia's faceoff specialist, tends to get better as the game goes along. UNC doing a nice job countering that.
That's the advantage UNC and Notre Dame has this year, where you've got two guys you can go to. Notre Dame with Kyle Gallagher and Charlie Leonard, Tucci and Tyre for UNC. Saved by Rode. Both goalies with double-digit saves. Now North Carolina's ride. Virginia's got to get it across midfield before that shot clock hits 60. Here's Sawstead all the way. Saved by Krieg. Denial on the doorstep. Marr the other way. Slams on the brakes.
As you get in closer as a defensive player, you get closer to the crease, it is much harder to put the ball in the back of the cage because the stick is just too long to manipulate in that close.
That one hit the crossbar. Shot clock resets. Kaloji scoops. And a loose ball push on Virginia, North Carolina ball. Here's Anderson, head of steam, saved by Rode.
Alex Rhodes.
Matt, the goalies have taken over this game.
I don't think I saw that coming based on the first 5 minutes, of this game. I said, hey, I don't think any goalie is going to be over 50%. Well, I was wrong, as usual.
Now, that's one of the other things with the ACC this year. Every team has an elite goalie in this conference.
I mean, it may be like top to bottom best goalie conference we've ever seen. You're right. Look at
Jeff Connor with a hat trick and 3 assists now by Matt Moore.
Right here, nice job moving the ball quickly. Again, it's another hockey assist for Virginia. They are playing very good team offense. Draw the double, make the adjacent pass, throw it to the other side of the field and attack, and Connor right there with a nice three-quarters shot around the UNC defenseman, using him as a screen to net his hat trick in this contest.
Face-off violation on UVA. No team has led by more than 2 goals. McCarthy's got a hat trick for UNC. Now Trippy shovels it to Chris Gray, who re-enters the chat.
And no team makes you pay more than North Carolina once they get you moving as a defense. McCarthy has the hat trick. Virginia had to slide early. Here's that slide. Here's that extra pass, and then Gray, the nice cut up the field to get away from Southstead to get his first of the game. UNC just makes you pay when you have to slide as a defense. So that all starts with McCarthy and what he's done in this game to make Virginia think, hey, we got to do something here. We got to slide. And then credit North Carolina for doing what they do best.
5 ties, 3 lead changes today. Now UNC looking to go back on top. Trippy working against Connor. Sawstead hedged. Gray has a short stick. Tough angle, and Rode denies.
It was interesting talking to Coach Bresci. He's like, if you're going to slide, we're going to make you pay. He's like, if you even hedge, he's like, we're going to make you pay. And I've never really heard a coach say, I mean, that's how talented he feels like his offensive team is with their lacrosse acumen and their abilities just with the ball in their stick. Maybe not even like athletically, but just like, we're just too good. We get this. And so if you're going to give us an opportunity on the defense, we're going to make you pay for it. And right there, Rode bails out Virginia on a nice save from Gray.
Beyond talent, Matt, what else is it that jumps out to you about this North Carolina offense?
It's just, there's no weakness. You know, they have the skilled crease players. They have one of the best players in the country in Gray, right? You know, you could say probably, you know, him, Bernhardt, or Sowers, probably the leaders for the Tewarton Award at the end of the year right now at this point in time. So they have that kind of alpha male, but they also have the complementary pieces.
North Carolina ball. Sean Morris will trigger. Carolina perfect in the clearing game, and they stay perfect against this Virginia ride. Justin Anderson, 21 and white, fifth-year senior, 25 years old, coming up on a 4-year wedding anniversary, and has a kid coming in May. That shot deflected. It'll stay with Carolina. Cook closest to the ball where it went out. Using the rocker step on Kaloji. Stick checked away. Kyle Kaloji came into this game with 19 caused turnovers. Merle plays it to Dixon, trail checked. That was Matt Wright, who's had a very fine season as the LSM for UNC. Carolina the other way.
And to me, North Carolina starting to maybe win these 50-50 ground balls at a higher rate than Virginia, and it's these extra possessions that are going to be the difference in this game. You know, it's going to be a save here or there and a few extra ground balls that ultimately is going to put one team in the winners column. So kudos to UNC and them really kind of showing a lot of determination in those ground balls.
Perry eyes Saladay. Perry gives UNC the lead, his second.
Perry, right to left, near side. North Carolina, off the individual effort from Perry, takes the lead against the Cavs.
Thursday night lacrosse, it's Duke and Virginia. Duke won't be number one anymore. They fell to Notre Dame earlier today, and it was such a big deal for Lars Tiffany and Virginia to beat Duke in the semifinals in 2019. That was dumping Donkey Kong off their back. Prior to that game, Duke had beaten Virginia 11 straight and 19 out of 20.
And the games, for the most part, weren't even close. I mean, they just had such a mental edge over Virginia. But that run, you know, that was a different UVA team, and Kaylee, they've carried it forward. And ultimately to win that game in overtime, Matt Moore to Ian Laviano for the game winner, you know, it put this program back on the map. You know, they had struggled for a while, new coaching regime. You know, they're like, hey, we're back. And that ultimately has led to better recruiting, more confidence, better leadership to get this Virginia team, you know, in the national championship conversation year over year. I can tell you
about what Duke had to do, man. They just had to play pitch and catch, had the ball up too late. Doc's Aiken ties it at 10. Doc's time coming a little early today.
And again, another team goal from Virginia. This, all starts with the slide there, the quick ball movement, the left to right split, Aiken to the low corner. He is at his best off of ball movement. He's too big, he's too athletic, he's got an explosive first step, and if he can get his hands free, there's just too much power, with the ball coming out of his stick for Krieg to match it. That was very good offense for Virginia. It's how you draw it up as a coach.
All right, it's been a battle at X. Virginia wins this one. Connors again, a ground ball machine off the wings, and then right the takeaway.
And
there's Alexander.
It's another example of North Carolina kind of getting doing a little more of the scrappy things, a little bit better than Virginia.
Gray's got his man hung up. Rode presses out. Gray feeding in front. The cage was empty momentarily, and Rode able to spring out and retrieve.
Every clear for Virginia, though, it's a struggle. It's hard for them to get it out. And right now, you're not even cleared. You have Koloji, a long stick, towards the middle of the field. I think they got away with an offsides there.
I was about to say, yeah. Virginia with Aiken, Laviano, Matt Moore, and the Merrimack transfer, Charlie Bertrand. Those four entered the game having combined for 567 career goals. Let that sink in. Laviano, Moore, and Aiken all north of 100 career goals, and Bertrand, two-time Division II Player of the Year, north of 200.
Your best offensive player may be Schellenberger. So, it's a team that, again, you can say it about every team in the ACC and the marquee programs. Just tons of talent as Virginia buries another to go up 11-10.
Back and forth we go with 2:05.
Moore gets it to X to Laviano with his left hand. Very low angle. Krieg not able to get to the back post quick enough. And Laviano sneaks it in the near side for his second of the game.
4 assists now for Matt Moore. Up to 96 for his career. Looking to become just the 5th 100-goal, 100-assist player in school history. Wasala wins it, but backwards, and now Virginia's got to clear. A flag is down against UNC. Might be offsides.
Now, who's got an advantage here? Is it North Carolina or Virginia? Because the first matchup, North Carolina's man down, scored 3 goals against Virginia's man up.
Carolina's got 7 guys on the defensive half of the field, and not including the goalie. And you're going to be flagged. You might as well play 7-on-6.
Here's a marquee matchup. You have Matt Moore versus Bowen.
Moore over to Garno! That's a 6-on-7 goal for Virginia. And the Cavaliers take a 2-goal advantage.
Virginia going back to the well. Matt Moore with the pick from Laviano. Bowen gets through. There's that adjacent slide. He gets it to Garno. Garno, what he's known for is just absolute range as a shooter. He can extend the defense, and right there he does a nice job getting it in and out of his stick with some pace, changing planes high to low to give Virginia a 2-goal lead.
Now technically that's not a man-down goal.
I think we could give that 1 for, maybe it's now 1-3 based on the matchups to date. sometimes that's tough, as a coach. When you bring that seventh person down, oftentimes you just park them on the crease and say, hey, make sure you match stick on stick because it can create some chaos. And right there, North Carolina slid where I don't think they need to, and it created kind of a step-down opportunity for Garneau.
Schellenberger playing cat and mouse with Cam Macri. 20 seconds to go in the third. No team is led by more than 2. Schellenberger snaking around. Plays it up top to Moore, who's got 5 assists. Feeding the crease. He's got Laviano. Matt Moore slicing and dicing this defense. And Virginia with the largest lead of the game by any team.
Just a nice recognition for Laviano coming the near side. And if you looked at the pass, what's key on those passes, Moore, well, he wasn't in a full sprint. He kept his feet moving. He kept moving to the side. North Carolina then had to keep their sticks down. It opened up the passing lane for Laviano, who gets his 3rd goal of the game, his 14th on the year.
Matt Moore has assisted on 4 of the last 5 Virginia goals. Final seconds, here's LaSala. Over to Saladay, it'll roll out of bounds. North Carolina ball, a second to go. Virginia on a 4-0 run to close out this third quarter. Wright sends it downfield. We go to quarter number 4. This has been a different Virginia team since the loss to UNC last month. Playing unselfish, making the extra pass, and Matt Moore, the facilitator this afternoon. Offensive star for Virginia this afternoon.
Yeah, I think my mom just jinxed you. She texted me saying every time you say Matt Moore, she thinks you're saying my name. But he has been all over the scorecard today, just picking apart North Carolina's defense. The nice pass there off the 2-man to Garneau. Just keeping his head up, and Laviano sneaking around the cage. A little different approach than the first game where he was 2 of 15 shooting. Right today, he has changed his approach and he's been getting his teammates involved. 6 assists, which is no easy task when you're being guarded by Will Bowen from North Carolina.
Face-off won by LaSala. It's been a face-off advantage for Virginia today. Here comes LaSala, fires and scores! 15th career goal for Petey LaSala. Virginia extends to a 4-goal lead.
LaSala here, he stays on the offensive end. He's a little bowling ball, and he can split right to left, and maybe not the prettiest of releases, but again, he's athletic enough. He can get enough pace on it. He has had big goals throughout his career. In the national championship game, he had a couple goals against TD Erlin that early on really shifted the momentum of that game against Yale, and right there, another big goal for him.
Had a goal in the semifinal win against Duke, and you think about all those faceoffs down the stretch against Duke and Maryland in the quarters. LaSala won every single one of them.
He gets better as the game goes on. He is a tactician. I just think he's strong. I mean, he's just, he's the perfect kind. Like if you were to draw up a face-off guy from like a, short and stocky. I mean, he's like 5'7", 215. It's like he is just an absolute tank. So he's gonna have his mark on the rest of this game here for sure.
Lars Tiffany slept in his car while recruiting LaSala. Connor Schellenberger off the mark. Cormier the backup. Okay, Matt, what's the adjustment now North Carolina needs to make defensively?
You have to watch off ball. Right now, Virginia is doing a nice job drawing the slides. It's that second slide. It's the person on the back door that has to have their head on a swivel to take away those opportunities for Virginia. Let Virginia score 1-0. Right now, all their goals are coming assisted. Don't let them beat you that way. Make them beat you one-on-one and put the ball on the back of the cage unassisted, because what you're doing right now is not working.
If Virginia plays like this, they're going to be a hard out the rest of the way for anybody. Colin Krieg, the freshman goalie, 15 saves today. before that first Virginia game last month. He asked that first midfield at UNC to pepper him with 200 to 300 shots the day before the game. Joe Bresci thought he was nuts, but he ended up making 20 saves against UVA the next night.
You know, if I'm a coach, I'm like, hey, goalies break their thumbs pretty frequently. Taking that many shots when they're shooting 100 miles an hour, I don't know. If I'm a trainer, I'm sitting there sweating because there's a high likelihood that your goalie's going to have some sort of hand issue with facing that many shots.
Nicky Solomon now. Over to Anderson. Down the alley, forced to his left. Good defense there. Anderson trying to get to that right hand. Draws the slide, gives it up to Cook. 15 to shoot. Perry now, shot on the run. It comes to Cameron. Cook makes his move inside. The bouncer is blocked. They'll say Rode touched it, a save. Shot clock resets, it doesn't matter. Virginia ball. And the Cavaliers in the midst of a 5-0 run after UNC took a 10-9 lead.
And that was a nice job defensively for Virginia, forcing North Carolina to the middle of the field where they could collapse but not expose themselves on the exteriors from a shooting perspective. Virginia, to me, Virginia's biggest issue defensively on the year has been some of the off-ball stuff, which to me is surprising because they're really good on the ball. Off-ball really shows itself if you can't handle the one-on-one matchups, and I think they've done a nice job as the season's progressed, kind of improving on that.
Bertrand against Cole Herbert. Matt Moore's got 6 assists. Bowen knocked it away. Might be time to add Matt Moore to that short list with Bernhardt and Sowers and Gray. That pass a little too high.
I don't think he's an honorable, the mid-season awards had him as an honorable mention, attackman. I think he's maybe at a different level than that. But again, there's so much talent this year. I mean, okay, Pat Cavanaugh, I don't know.
He's got to be in there too.
Yeah,
he's got to be in there too. 9 points at the Carrier Dome the week before.
He reminds me of a Steele Stanwyck type player, a Virginia great, just lets the game come to it, knows him so well, deceptively athletic, never going to make a bad mistake and put your teammates in the best positions.
Carolina ends a 5-0 UVA run. It's Schertzinger, his second.
This second midfield for UNC making an impact. Schertzinger gets it, keeps it in his left hand. The fact that this goes to the far post with his left hand where all of his body weight and momentum is taking him towards the sideline. Talk about skill and repetition to have the wrist control to do that.
All the face-offs magnified now in the fourth quarter. Connors. And Virginia will leave him out there on the offensive end. They'll play with him. They may even play 5-on-5. Now Connors will jog off. If you're at a Virginia practice, one of the things they do, they'll practice offense with their long poles on the offensive half of the field. Aiken and Moore behind the cage. Now Schellenberger, his shot blocked. Tries to get it back. Carolina's defense swarms. And it's Aiken out of the scramble. And Virginia cashes in. Jeff Connor having himself a day.
Jeff Connor's career day. Not just a day, the best day of his career on the lacrosse field here. And again, it's like he had time and room, but the awareness and the composure and the poise. I mean, tuck your stick, fake high, go low. He gets Krieg up in the air, has very little angle, but he is able to put it in the back of the net with patience. 4 goals on the afternoon. But again, he's been complete. He's playing on the wings on faceoffs. He's been helping them clear. He's making some good passes. This is the type of player that they recruited. He was a top 5 recruit. And right now he's showing why. He hasn't to date in his career. So exciting to see, and a much welcomed addition for this Virginia offense.
You saw an injured UNC player a moment ago, and Connor's awakening, adding more firepower to this Virginia offense. Now that's Matt Wright, talented long stick midi. Calgary native limping off and gets a pat on the back by Laviano. But to your point on Connor, they've been waiting for him to break out. You said a top 5 recruit coming out of high school, and first couple of years didn't really do much with his opportunities, couldn't put the ball on the cage. Started slow this year. It's clicked. And he's become a big part of that first midfield. And then you add him to Aiken and Schellenberger and Cormier. You've got Garneau and Bertrand now playing second midfield. Boy, the depth of scoring for Virginia. You throw Dixon into that mix. When they won in 2019, it was the top 6. There's more depth of scoring on this team.
And we talked about this, Anish, right? Like, it's got to be hard as a coach. With that much talent, how do you keep really talented players who aren't getting a ton of time engaged and make sure they get better so they improve as players, so they can show that they can make an impact? I mean, I just can only imagine how it could be really easy for a player to get discouraged and maybe take away from some of the team dynamics that you're looking to build because they don't feel like they're getting a fair chance, So it's a tough road to walk if you're a coaching staff to get as many good players on the field as possible.
Dangerous pass. Schellenberger knocks it down. Big ground ball. Mars got it for UNC. Now Lawhead. Another BU transfer. Krieg out of the cage. Plays it back. They got to get it across before that clock hits 60. And what a clearing pass to Gray.
That was phenomenal. That pass to Gray was so good. The touch up against the shot clock to get it over the midfield. Every possession matters for the Tar Heels right now.
Carolina's taken 40 shots, Virginia 39. Big advantage at the face-off X for the Hoos. 15 saves for Krieg, 13 for Rode. Anderson against Kaloji. Anderson couldn't get anything on it. Picked up by UNC. I think that was Jacob Kelly. It was 15-12. Still plenty of time.
Kelly off the rebound. Attacks it, keeps his feet, plants high to low. Big time goal for the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Petey LaSala, the face-off man for Virginia. Coffees for closers. He gets the El Dorado, folks. He's won all 4 face-offs here in this fourth quarter.
And again, we've mentioned he gets better as the game goes on. 4-0 in a game where every possession matters because your offense are just too good. Even though your defenses are playing pretty well, there's just too much depth of scoring on both these teams, so those possessions matter. And at the end of the day, if you're going to say right now what's the biggest difference is that Virginia's won, 19 to 30 faceoffs.
LaSala and Andrew Tyre. And it's Petey again. He's got a goal, shovels it in front, shot to score, Laviano. 4 for Ian Laviano.
So you're going to have your face-off man pop it forward, throw an underhand pass to Laviano, and the touch. This is very intentional. He protects his stick. He sees the slide come up, and then I can't describe how hard it is for any player to throw a pass that short with that much touch. He's been involved in 2 goals here in the second half that have made a big difference in where this score is right now.
Big ground ball. Soliday has it for Virginia. And the Cavaliers have won every face-off in this fourth quarter. Carolina in its ride. Sawstead puts one on Cage. He got greedy. It died shy of the crease, and Carolina picks it up. Bowen the other way. Up ahead to Gray.
And so if you're new to the game of lacrosse, you may be thinking, why did he shoot that? Well, North Carolina is in what we call a 10-man ride, which means the goalie comes out of the cage, so you can then press up one extra player to kind of do like a full court press. And Southside was not able to get enough on the shot. Not a terrible strategy, it was poor execution from the Cavaliers.
Like an empty net in hockey. Tanner Cook gets the pick from Perry, who falls down. And Cook misses the cage, 41 on the shot clock. William Perry in front. Rode is there. 14 saves for Alex Rode. We get a whistle. That's going to go back to Carolina. Call was made out of our frame.
Virginia is now long-sticking Tanner Cook for North Carolina, number 77, their best dodging offensive midi, and that strategy has been an effective one.
Why?
For me, it's North Carolina's third attackman, depending who's in on that position, isn't a big threat to dodge, and so when you can take one of their best middies really out of his strength, which is dodging, it makes the life for the other defensive players that much easier. Tanner Cook on a short stick is a matchup nightmare. Against the long stick, you're a lot more confident.
There's Kaloji again, matched up on Cook. Now Perry, he's got a hammer from the outside, and he shows it off.
And Cook, here's that slide. You know, he's a good passer, and Perry, fake, patient, replant your feet. It does a nice job peppering that ball to the low portion of the cage.
A hat trick for William Perry, one of the veterans on that first midfield. Nice bounce back game after being held without a goal in the loss to Duke last time out. Cavaliers still control the X. Jack Peel. Now you can go over the midfield line in the first 20 seconds of the shot clock. So you can go over and back before that shot clock hits 60. Once it hits 60, you've got to stay in the offensive half.
I think Peel forgot that rule. They're trying to stay on the offensive end, but a nice individual effort from him there on the wing and getting the ball to Dox Aiken, who's probably your best athlete in the middle of the field, so they could break that pressure from North Carolina.
The fourth quarter, as Lars Tiffany says, is Doc's time. Virginia eyeing a fourth straight win. They have Duke on Thursday, and then Utah next weekend.
Now Virginia
talking about.
If you're Virginia offensively, you take up most of the time on the offensive zone as it relates to the shot clock. So right now, 10 seconds left. They've burnt 70 seconds. They haven't been standing still. They've been moving. So they're going to get an opportunity here as Moore takes a shot sweeping. So I don't hate this offensive set for Virginia.
Schellenberger sneaks and scores. Pure
I love this
speed.
offensive set for Virginia to get the goal with 1 second left on the shot clock. Now Anish, right? Most teams with 4 seconds left are throwing the ball to the corner to set up the ride. Not Virginia. Schellenberger, the redshirt freshman, one-on-one individual effort to the top portion of the cage. Offensively speaking, Schellenberger, I know all the talk was of O'Neal and how good he was at Duke. I mean, the freshman class, it's just nuts. And I know he was a year earlier, but he redshirted. I mean, Nasso, the faceoff man for Duke, may be the best in the ACC.
You're right. We got to mention Nasso. Schellenberger came into this game as the top scoring freshman in all of Division I. Can Carolina get an offensive possession? As good as Petey LaSala has been, UNC is still potent enough at the faceoff X, where if they can get a goal, Tyre and Tucci can play, make it, take it for you. They're not out of this game.
That's just the great part of lacrosse and what I think is one of its most unique characteristics is its ability to go on runs. You just don't see it that often. You can score and get the ball back and play to make it, take it. And it's just why we have so many exciting ends and conclusions of games.
Schertzinger. He's got 2 goals today. Now it's McCarthy. Chris Gray, leading scorer in the ACC, entering the game. Feeding in front. And it ends up being a turnover. Virginia's got it. Up 4, 3:03 to go.
There are a lot
Tiffany's team.
A lot of MVPs in this game. Throw Southstead on there for Virginia, number 11, the defensive player. Gray has, I think, 1 goal, and it was off ball. You know, he hasn't been able to create much and generate much against the really talented long stick for Virginia.
Matt, after today, if Virginia holds on, and I said to you, who's the team to beat in the ACC?
Can I just choose at random? I mean, at this point, it's tough, right? Because I would say, I think I could identify who I thought was maybe the weakest, you know, and then I think that's Syracuse. But Syracuse smoked Virginia, so your guess is as good as mine. Virginia, to me, is getting better. Them in Notre Dame, you know, right now I think are just getting better each week. I'm not sure you can say the same for Duke and UNC. They're both great and elite, but you're not seeing the development and the growth with their programs quite as much as I think you're seeing from Notre Dame and Virginia.
There's Chris Gray. Individual effort by number 4. Carolina's not dead yet. 17-14, 1:52 to go. Critical face-off coming up.
And Gray here, I mean, you're going to see why it's so hard. The range of Southstead, but Gray does a nice job of, you're going to see it right here. Look at him extend his arm as Southstead goes over the head, and then to get his lower hand back on the stick to be able to shoot it with enough pace to get it by a goalie in Rode, who's played very well. An impressive individual effort for Gray.
LaSala and Tucci. And it pops back to Virginia. Connors has it. And Virginia's going to try to play keep away. UNC has to press out. Virginia has the 2 timeouts.
And one change you're going to see here for Virginia, Peyton Cormier, the attackman, is off the field, and they've moved Schellenberger in because now it's how do we kill time? And you want your best athletes, your fastest players, because North Carolina is going to apply a lot of pressure as they call a timeout here to try to figure out how do we get this ball back against this athletic Virginia offense.
Timeout by Lars Tiffany. 17-14 Virginia. A late surge at the end of that 3rd quarter. Virginia was down 10-9. Ended the 3rd quarter on a 4-0 run. Ian Laviano, when he scores, that tells you the offense is clicking.
You look, his performance in the national championship run a couple of years ago was all the difference, and he struggled to date. You know, you put a crease player on the field, he is not your best athlete, he's not expected to dodge the score. You want him doing things like this, off ball, being an effective shooter, and if they get him to play at the level that he did a couple years ago, it opens things up for Schellenberger, Cormier, for Matt Moore, for Dox Aiken. They hadn't had that in the first number of games, but he is rounding into form. He's getting his confidence back. And again, you know, if you talk to players on the team, they just love the kid. You know, he is everyone's favorite player, and it's because he is just a workhorse. I mean, he is known for riding, and he has had a great game today and made his impact.
He's the type of guy, if he's on your team, you love him. If he's on the other team, he gets under your skin.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's funny how that works, right?
And he wears that like a badge of honor. Schellenberger will trigger. What does Carolina have to do here to get the ball back?
So they're going to double the ball. You know, it was the strategy a little confusing to me. As
they knock it away.
But you double the ball initially, and they let Schellenberger just throw an adjacent pass. Usually you double and shut off everywhere else to make their life a little bit harder. But Virginia doing a nice job here, you know, handling the pressure.
Schellenberger eluding the pursuit. Matt Moore will take the layup, and that puts a punctuation point on this one. He thought about it too. Should I? Sure.
When you're winning faceoffs, no problem, right? But at this point, Schellenberger splits the double. Laviano with the nice pass. Matt Moore kind of just the recipient of Schellenberger's hard work evading the double team. Virginia is rounding into form. This is a team that's going to start to believe that, they knew they had the talent. There was probably some questions in there, when they were playing High Point really close. Robert Morris really close. They didn't bring their best efforts those days, but against the better teams, they're starting to play well.
This league, Matt, it's amazing. Last Thursday, it was Duke and UNC, 1-2. Now here we are, a little more than a week later, and you can make the case that Virginia and Notre Dame are the two best teams in the ACC, as Carolina gets one more.
I think that's going to be the story as the season continues. It's going to be a rotating, top dog in the ACC as North Carolina gets a big goal here. Just near side high by number 3, Will Perry, who's had a great day as well. Look, North Carolina, you lose 2 games in a row. Coach Bresci's got enough experience. He knows that he'll get his guys in the right place, and these teams are just too good. It's too close. He was like, this is going to be a close game. No matter what happens when you play close games, either team can win based on a few extra saves or some ground balls here or there.
A flag down.
Procedure.
Three face-off violations on UNC, and Virginia continues to build momentum. Matt, we talked about at the start of the broadcast, within the game was Matt Moore and Will Bowen, and in that first meeting between these two last month, Moore was 2 of 15 shooting, and it wasn't all on Moore just from Virginia in general. It was too much individual play, too much hero ball. Well, this time around, we saw how dangerous and lethal Virginia can be when they make the extra pass, the hockey assist, team lacrosse, and Matt Moore was the catalyst in every way today. Connor Moore with one more for UNC, 18-16. Take note, Lax Vegas lines.
We were, talking about the matchup Moore versus Bowen. We said, hey, the first round went to Bowen 10-9. Right now, I'd say this one was 10-8 Moore. So right now, I would say that Moore may have the upper hand on the matchup on the season. Hopefully, there'll be a third contest at some point to see these guys go at it again. But North Carolina's not going away as they get their second straight goal to make it 18-16.
Lasala wins the faceoff, fittingly closing it out for Virginia. 6th-ranked UNC, or 6th-ranked Virginia, takes down number 3 UNC, 18-16, a game that saw 51 shots from the heels, 44 from Virginia. Fast-paced, barn burner. I'm with you, Matt Ward. I hope we get a round 3 between these two. If it happens, it'll be in May. Softball next on ESPN2.